Welcome to Power Conversations podcast. This podcast features discussions of overcoming by faith and resilience with women who are breaking glass ceilings and excelling to higher heights despite their past circumstances. Brought to you by What's Your Superpower TV channel, we will interview several women from across the globe who have overcome adversity and pushed through to fulfill their purpose. Welcome everyone to Power Conversations podcast. I am your host, Nadia Francois, and today we have an amazing guest joining us, Miss Alicia. Let me bring her in.
Hey.
Hi, Queen. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you so much. Wonderful to be with you. It's such a pleasure and honor to talk with you and your listeners.
Thank you so much for coming on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
I will. Thank you so much. So I am Alicia Sedgwick, and I am the communication expert. I'm also the author of the international best-selling book, Communicating Through Change, and I am a professional MC. I originally come from England, in case you didn't recognize the accent, and now I live in the south of France, quite near to Monaco. And what I do is to help people to communicate effectively and make an impact when they communicate, and really help them to express themselves with confidence, build their self-esteem, and really help them to step into their power when they speak.
I love it. I did not know you were an MC. You know, we met through another colleague, and I was we were both on a panel, but I learned so much from you. And so you just stuck with me, and then you reached out to me. I was like, oh my God. So
well, I reached out to you, Nadia, because you are so powerful yourself, and you help people so very much. And I felt that power, I felt that connection when we were on the panel together. So I just wanted to be in touch with you even more. So it's such a thrill to be in contact with you and to be doing this conversation.
Absolutely, Queen. I'm excited because one thing I love to do is learn, and I feel like today is going to be that type of experience. So let's talk about the adversity. So, Power Conversations is all about pushing through, showing our faith, and pushing through adversity to our purpose. So, of course, we as women endure a lot in our lifetime. I'm almost positive that you have several accounts of overcoming adversity, but share one with us and let us know what propelled you into your purpose.
Thank you so much again. Yes, I've listened to your podcasts and your fabulous women that you've spoken to and the challenges that they have overcome. And I too, yes, I have had many challenges, change challenges, which I write about in my book, Communicating Through Change. And the one that I wanted to focus on today is actually loss. And it's bereavement, it's loss of a sibling. It was loss of my brother, because I hope that in speaking about that, it will help your listeners and viewers to communicate through the same or similar experiences of loss and bereavement. So I'm going to go back to when I was 15 years old, and it was just before Christmas, and I was at the school disco, and I came out of that school disco, and I was very excited to share what had happened overnight with my brother, because I shared everything with him, my big brother. He was 18. And when I came out of the disco, my dad was waiting for me in the car to pick me up. And that was quite unusual, because usually it would be my mum who would collect me from such an event. So that was a bit odd as I got into the car. And as we drove off, Dad said to me that we weren't going to go home. We were going to go to my aunt and uncle's, where I would stay the night, because he and Mum were going to be at the hospital because my brother had been in an accident and he was there. So they were going to stay with him. So I thought, okay, I'll just have to speak to Leslie in the morning. My brother, his name was Leslie, and I thought I'll speak to him in the morning and tell him everything that's gone on. So I went to my aunt and uncle's, and a little bit later, Mum and Dad actually came there because the hospital had said that they should go home and get some sleep and come back in the morning. So we did that. We went home and we went to bed. And in the early hours of the morning, we received a phone call to say that my brother had died. And from that moment, my life entirely changed, because my brother was charismatic. He was incredible. He filled the room with his personality and his presence. He was brilliant. He was just going to go to Oxford University to read law and to study law. And he was my big brother. Ever since I was born, I was his baby girl and his baby sister. And I didn't have to be or do anything because Leslie was everything.
Oh,
And all of a sudden, that huge, bright light had been extinguished, and I was then in the spotlight. And from being 15 years old and young and quite immature, I suddenly was propelled into adulthood. But I was still a child in so many ways, and in a complete state of shock. The rug had been taken from under my feet, and everything that I knew had disappeared. So I had to learn very, very fast. And I also had to take on responsibility, which I never wanted to do. And I had to learn that I could work through my grief and work through my loss. But it took me a very, very long time to actually get over the fact that there was a wound and it was plastered over with a Band-Aid or a plaster, but there was still a wound and a huge void in my life. So from that, being propelled, I think, into adulthood and responsibility and still being a child, there was that sort of irony all through my life for many, many, many years, that there was a gap actually between me being grown up and not being grown up. And
yeah,
it took a very long time for that to be reconciled and for me to recover as much as possible in terms of that the wound wasn't as raw or bleeding as it was at that time when we lost him. I remember that one of my aunts at Leslie's funeral, I was crying and she said to me, "You have to be strong." And that immediately sort of stopped my tears and made me think, okay, now I've got to be strong. And that stayed with me for a very, very long time, not necessarily in a positive way, because
right,
it meant that I suppressed a lot of the grief and how I actually felt, because I thought I've got to be strong and I've got to be strong for my mum and dad.
yeah,
They never said that to me, I have to say. They were always immensely supportive. But, you know, it was such a shock for them too, and such a
right,
trauma. For my mum, I know that for a very long time she didn't cry. For a very long time we didn't talk about Leslie, which again was not necessarily a good thing. It
right,
just was the thing that happened for us.
yeah,
And all that mum and dad wanted was that I should be happy and that my life should be as full as possible and as happy as possible, even though Leslie was no longer there. So that was a very, very deep learning curve in my life, and certainly propelled me forward in many, many ways, and in ways which I didn't necessarily come to terms with for a very long time.
Yeah. That is, ooh, a heavy story. A heavy story in many ways, but also inspirational because, you know, look at you now, and you can tell someone else your story to help them overcome grief. But it also hit home when you said how you how your aunt told you to be strong, right? And so that kind of stood out to me because as women, we're told that a lot through our
Yes,
adversity, right?
yes,
Not
yes, we are.
just not just in grief, but in almost everything that we go through, right? So we
Yes,
have no time to, and like you, most of us do exactly what you did and kind of tune out what we're going through to do what the elders say to do, right? And
yes.
so, you know, that in itself is a message for us to deal with the things that we go through because it sticks with you if you don't, right?
Yes, very much. And Nadia, a couple of things from that. Yes, as women, we are told to be strong or that we are strong. And
Yes.
so, what we tend to do is to disregard how we actually feel. And we don't take care of ourselves as a result. And we
Yes.
don't give ourselves self compassion. And actually, it's so important for us. It's important for everyone to do that, but particularly as women. And if you are a woman who has gone through loss and bereavement and grief, you can accept and recognize and acknowledge that you are going to feel these huge waves of grief that are going to
Yes.
hit you. And you are going to feel at very often, a lot of times, I can't deal with this. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to cope with it. That wave is going to hit you. And all you can do is to give into it and
Yeah.
to actually let out the feelings. And that is something that you can do. It's okay for you to
Yes.
let it go and to let it out. It's okay for you to let those waves wash over you. And if you acknowledge that and you recognize that that's going to happen, you are going to be moving forward in actually how you are handling the grief. And also, don't let people say to you, how long are you going to feel this way? How long is this going to last? It's not a question that should be asked because it will take however long it takes for you to get through it. And you
Absolutely.
can take your time as well. Take your time and accept that and respect that of yourself. And also, I think that respect that somebody will deal with grief differently to you. We are all unique. It doesn't mean that if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, if they don't want to cry, if they don't want to laugh, or they do want to laugh, and they do want to cry, and they do want to talk about it, however they want to deal with it, that's their way. And you must
Right.
respect that, even if it's not your way. I also found that when my brother died, a lot of people used to cross the street not to talk to us.
Wow.
They found it really hard to actually talk to us because they didn't know what to say. And at the
Yeah.
time, I really didn't understand that. And I found it very difficult. I thought, well, why are they're almost avoiding us and ignoring us, I felt. But it was actually because they didn't know what to say and they were overwhelmed themselves
Yeah.
by the grief and the loss. And now, I understand that. And so, what I would say is if you feel that you cannot communicate with somebody who is going through loss because you don't know what to say, actually, what you should do or what you can do is to communicate that to the person. You can say to them, look, I don't know what to say to you. I don't have the words. I can't think of what you are going through. All I know is that I feel for you and I want to be there for you. So if you want to talk, I'm here. If you want to be quiet, I am here. I will sit with you. If you want to laugh, I am here. I will laugh with you. Whatever you need, whatever you want, I am here for you. And if you say that and you communicate that, it's going to be so supportive and it will mean so much to that person who is going through hell and
Yeah.
going through all of that loss and that grief and not knowing how to go through it and not knowing how to communicate their way through it.
Yeah.
So express that, and that will be really, really helpful and supportive.
I love it. I love that. That was it right there, y'all. Listen to this queen because she is right on the money. During COVID in this pandemic, we suffered a lot of loss, of family members. In particular, one of my best friends lost her mother.
Oh,
And, you know, really, she was almost like my mother as well because we came up from grade school together. And my mom has always been a workaholic. And so I spent a lot of time at their house. And so the grief that she felt, it was almost like I felt it as well, right? It was hard to overcome that. But I also, even though I was grieving as well, I had to take the time and remove myself, right? To be the support for her.
right,
And even when she didn't respond or, you know, couldn't speak to me, I sent text letting her know that I was there. If she needed anything, we don't have to talk. Like, whatever you are going through, I'm right here with you. And however you want to handle it, right here with you, and that's been over a year ago. And, she came to me about a month ago and told me how much she appreciated me just letting her be her and deal with it on her own, but still be the support system, right? So
yeah.
that is right on the money, right on it,
Well,
right
well,
on it.
no, well, wonderful you. I mean, you were absolutely, you did totally the best thing that you could for your friend. And you mentioned about the pandemic, and yes, we have all experienced loss during that period, but we've also experienced loss in that our lives are totally different because of
Yes,
the pandemic. And that is a huge change and a huge shift in our life, not only physically losing people, but also, losing the way of life that we have known. And now
yes,
we've got a war going on
that's
between
right,
Russia and Ukraine, which is another dramatic and significant change in our lives and is affecting us globally, as did the pandemic.
right.
So, it's very much at this time that we need to be supportive of each other and understand that everyone is going through changes in their lives that we
Yes,
do not know how to navigate our way through. And so we have to take the time to be able to give each other time to deal with it in the way that we deal with it, and respecting that of each other, acknowledging and accepting that there is a great deal of change and that we can support each other giving each other time and space for us to deal with it in the way that we do. One of my very good friends, when I lost my parents, who I, of course, was very, very close to, I was close to them before my brother died, but certainly even closer after,
Right.
because I was then an only child. And when they died, again, it was another period of huge difficulty for me. I was completely at a loss again and rudderless. I didn't really know who I was. I had identified so much with mum and dad, and all of a sudden I was there alone,
Yeah.
on my own 2 feet. And one of my very, very good friends said to me, just put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And that really stayed with me, and it has stayed with me ever since. And I say it now to my students and my clients who are going through change and they don't know how to communicate through it, because it almost gives you the permission to be able to take your time. And that when you put one foot in front of the other, you are moving forward, and you can feel that you are moving forward, but you don't have to do it at a running pace. You don't have to do it very, very quickly. You can do it at your own pace. And if there's some days when you feel that you actually can't even put that one foot in front of the other, you know what? That's okay too. So
Yes.
don't. Just stay still, stay seated, stay in that moment, and that is okay too. I think it's all about giving yourself permission to deal with any kind of loss as you deal with it. Give yourself permission to do that, because it's okay for you not to move forward. It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to then be running around like a blue-ass fly. It's okay however you need to deal with it. Give yourself permission.
I love it. I love it. That was so inspirational. That was great, 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 Miss Alicia. Listen, we are going to turn the page a little bit and get
Yes.
to our power questions of the day.
Oh,
Where,
oh,
yes, where we get to learn a little bit more about you. And so, our first question:
yes.
what affirmation do you wire into your programming?
I think that one of the affirmations that I live by, and in my book Communicating Through Change, I talk about my experiences of change and what I've learned, and then I give communication techniques for the reader to help them communicate through the same or similar experiences. And I have affirmations at the end too, to sort of affirm everything that I have learnt in the chapter, and to be able to help the reader. And one of them that really resonates with me is, I never give up hope. I never give up hope.
Yes, that's a good.
Because I think that, if you've got hope, you've always got a reason in some ways to get up in the morning,
Yes,
and to show up, and to put up. And I think, never to give up hope. My parents always instilled in me, they suffered a lot of tragedy and loss in their lives. They were never bitter, they never complained. And they always had this incredible joie de vivre. There was always, to live life to the full. And in that affirmation, I never give up hope, it also embodies for me that you should live life to the full. And that,
yes,
every day is a wonderful day, because it's a new day and it's a
yes.
new opportunity. So I think that affirmation, I never give up hope, is really, really positive, and it's something that really stays with me. And I hope that it helps your listeners and viewers to feel, yeah, you know what? I'm never going to give up hope, because there is always hope. I can always make a difference. Things can always be different. You know, the one thing that we can be sure of is that things change. Now,
Yeah.
that can be for the better, it can be for the worse. They will change.
Yes.
And out of adversity must come opportunity. There is a Chinese saying, out of adversity must come opportunity. And I see that as well. If you never give up hope, there's always opportunity. There's always a way forward.
Yes.
Things can be different. They can be different positively and fabulously.
I love it. I love it. And speaking on opportunities, our next question is, how do you prevent missed opportunities?
Gosh, how do you prevent missed opportunities? That's a good question. How do you prevent missed opportunities? I think that it's always being open to anything new. And if you are open always, then you're never going to miss an opportunity because you are always open to learning. You're always open to meeting new people, to speaking with people. And if you are open, if your mind is open, if you're curious, if you are willing to learn, and if you are willing to step out of your comfort zone as well, you're never going to miss an opportunity. And, you know, life is very short. And so we must make the most of it, as I mentioned before. But also, you know, we must never live with regret.
Yeah.
So even if you did miss an opportunity, that was for a reason. And the
Yeah.
reason was because there's going to be a new opportunity and it will be even better than the one that perhaps you missed.
Absolutely. I love that answer. Wonderful. And our final question,
Mm-hmm.
what are your methods of self-care?
I think that it's very important to show self-compassion. As I mentioned when we started this conversation, that we as women don't practice that very much because we're so busy looking after everyone else that we don't look after ourselves. So I think that it's very important that we do take the time to take care of ourselves, whatever that is. Now, for me, I love to look at the sea. I love to be near the sea. I don't like to be on it because I get very sick, but I do love to be near it and to see it and to watch the waves against the shore. Fortunately, I live by the sea. I'm just looking out the window now, actually, as I'm speaking to you, and I can see it. It's quite a rough day, actually. The waves are against the shore quite hard, but it's beautiful. It's always changing.
Yeah.
And for me, that's very, very therapeutic and it's very
Yes.
restful. And just being in that moment, I think that we spend a lot of time running around or our mind is racing and
Yeah.
we're sort of are always thinking or we're always doing. And
Hmm.
I think that it's important that we remember we are human beings and not human doings. So, in terms
Yes.
of self care, we must be rather than do. So,
Mm.
for me, just to take those moments to be and to sit and to be still and to try and still my mind as well, which for me would be to look at the sea and to look at that wonderful view outside my window. But please don't forget that we are human beings and not doings. So please practice self-care, self-compassion. Don't be hard on yourselves as well. You know, sometimes I beat myself up for, I think, oh, you know, I just did some training and some coaching and I did some teaching. Maybe it wasn't that good. Maybe I wasn't so good today. We beat ourselves up and we
Yes.
really have got to stop doing that and
Yes.
actually think about all the great things that we do and all the good things that we do and think about those and focus on those rather than the negatives and be in that moment of thinking about, yeah, I did good today, and give yourself a pat on the back and take those moments to do that too.
Wonderful, wonderful. Alicia, this has been an amazing interview today. Guys, Listen, connect with this queen. Give us your contact info, your website, your social media handles.
Thank you. So my website is www.aliciasedgwick.com. And I'm just going to spell that for you. It's Alicia, Alicia. Sedgwick is Sedgwick. So it's www.aliciasedgwick.com. And I am on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as Alicia Sedgwick, Communication Coach, and you will find me there. And please come and find me. With my teaching as a communication coach, I teach people, I give people confidence in being able to communicate effectively and with impact. And when you come to me, you become a member of Team Alicia. And in Team Alicia, you are free to be yourself without any judgment. You're going to be supported and cared for, and you are able to leave your worries, your cares, your anxieties, and your fears outside the door. So come and join me in Team Alicia and let me take care of you, and let me help you to communicate effectively and make an impact with confidence, and rebuild your self-esteem if you feel that that has been lost. Particularly as well, nowadays we are communicating so much online and on camera. I'm going to be able to help you do that without fear and without being afraid.
Awesome. Amazing, guys. Listen, this has been a wonderful show today. This queen has poured into us wonderful techniques of communicating through loss and grief. Wonderful, wonderful information. Alicia, thank you so much again for joining us today. Do you have any final thoughts for our viewers and listeners?
Yes, thank you, Nadia, so much. It has been such a pleasure for me to speak with you too. And I would just say to your viewers and your listeners, my book is available on Amazon, Communicating Through Change, and it will help you. And it will also mean that you can listen to it. It's on audio version as well as paperback and Kindle. And when you buy the book, when you listen to the book, when you read the book, it also gets you into Team Alicia, so that you will feel that there is somebody there to support you and to help you. And I am here to support you and to help you.
Awesome. Amazing, Queen. Thank you again. Guys, listen, this has been Power Conversations podcast. We are uh, dropping new episodes every Thursday, 8 a.m., and we are available on all major listening platforms. Make sure you subscribe. Also, subscribe to What's Your Superpower TV on all of your social media outlets, and download Exposure TV Network app to connect with us further. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Blessings.